Entering the Flex Zone today, I'll be interviewing a high flyer that knows no fear when it comes to soaring through the air and beating down his opponents in the squared circle for the 1, 2, and 3. Tyler Matrix, you've entered the Flex Zone. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, anytime I can wake up and talk to great individuals like yourself, it's a treat indeed. And talking about professional wrestling, I've been around the business on and off like for a long time now, and I know you're in it right now. You're fresh and you're kicking ass. How did it all evolve? How did it all come about? Where did you get the itch to become a professional wrestler?
Oh, man, I've had the itch since I was a little kid. I grew up in Decatur, Alabama, and I had if I had to guess, I maybe had about 500 action figures growing up. I was a huge wrestling fan back then, but I actually kind of fell out of it. A lot of people do. I feel like growing up, getting into high school, you've got things like sports, basketball, football, baseball, and then, girls and all that stuff. So my focus kind of shifted a little bit. But it was actually, I got the itch when I was in college. I graduated high school. Didn't really, I was actually going to go and become a basketball coach.
Okay.
But I just was not enjoying what I was doing. I was at my community college going to class, and I actually cut on a Monday Night Raw one night. I was like, man, I still love this. From there, I actually ended up looking up where to train, and that's how I ended up here in Louisville, Kentucky.
You know, we talk about training too, and I worked over at the WWA Force School in Atlanta, Georgia for a long time over there. I knew the owner. He put something special together there, and now AR Fox has taken that over. How did you find the right school? Because I know there's a lot of schools out there, Tyler, that are going to want to take your money and just kind of kick you to the curb. How did you find the right school?
I actually, as I was watching Monday Night Raw back then, a lot of the guys, and some of those same guys are still at the top of the game on TV now, they went through Ohio Valley Wrestling, which back a couple years ago was actually WWE's almost AAA, like their developmental system. So if I'm watching all the guys that are on TV right now and that's where they came from, I thought that was the place to be.
Now, you said it was formerly kind of run with WWE. What fell apart there? I know they're still pulling guys from there, so what went down?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe it was probably more towards 06, 07-ish. WWE just decided to, because Ohio Valley Wrestling is its own company at the end of the day.
Right.
And they actually decided to create their own farm league, which is now NXT.
Oh, yeah,
NXT
exactly.
has the big shows the nights before all the big WWE pay-per-views as well, and they have a weekly TV show.
Yeah, because I was thinking like that. I knew they used NXT as a training ground, but I thought they were still using OVW. But OVW still has a lot of great talent moving up the ranks. As far as the legends go in the OVW and the people that you've worked with, who stands out in your mind?
Man. Immediately, I would say the number one guy is probably Randy Orton. That's one guy who, no matter what, he's always going to be smooth, always going to be crisp, and he's, to me, the definition of what OVW training was back then. But a couple of other guys still come around and give a lot of great advice to the younger guys trying to break out and stuff. Guys like Rob Conway, Chris Silvio, to name a few, who are looking to almost give back to wrestling. Like they've done really well for themselves in WWE or on the independent circuit and still are. But
right.
The greater you can make everyone else in wrestling, the greater wrestling as a whole is going to be.
There's a lot of growing pains as far as becoming a professional wrestler. And, Tyler, I don't know how many years you've been involved, but it looks like you've been involved for a little bit of time here. You've paved your way. Did anything sidetrack you or kind of derail you, even though you were doing good things in professional wrestling?
Nothing too hugely. I think when you try to start to balance it, because one of the main problems, I think, is guys say they want to be professional wrestlers, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, professional wrestling it's a career. And if you treat it like a hobby, it's going to reflect in your work in the ring and outside of it. Kind of like a job with entry level,
Right.
At the end of the day, when you first start out in wrestling, you're not going to get the pay that you would or that you would like that you can live off of. So
right.
A lot of guys are going to have second, even third jobs, make ends meet.
This is like being an actor. I was just interviewing an actor. And, he's just not acting, even though he's getting all these roles. Just like with professional wrestling, you're right. There's a lot of people that treat it like a hobby. Do we hate them? No. I mean, if they want to go wrestle over at the local gym every single week or every month, then that's a prerogative. But if you really want to make it in this business, you got to keep putting in the work. You got to train. You got to practice the basics, know the history around professional wrestling, and maybe travel overseas. You see so many great wrestlers that have traveled overseas. Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, the list goes on and on. So where have your travels taken you on this journey?
So far, it's taken me all across the East Coast. I first started out here in Louisville, and I branched out to Missouri. I wrestled in Denver, Colorado earlier this year. That's about as far out towards west I've gone so far, but I've been up in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and you spoke of overseas, and that's actually something that might be on the horizon for me in 2018 as well.
And I've always found this interesting because I've seen guys that have made their way overseas. Apollo Crews, to name one, he was a UHA Nation back in the day. You wonder, how do you guys fund these trips? I've always been interested in how you get the funding to make your way overseas.
Well, if you're going overseas, there's two routes normally, depending on how big of a name you are. Your travel's covered, nothing to worry about. But again, a part of that entry-level kind of deal. Some guys, myself included, probably in the coming year, you might actually have to pay for your own flight just to get in with some of the dojos over in Japan, for example, or anything like that. You kind of have to pitch in for your own travel. It's an investment in yourself. The more you get out there, the more you make your name.
And ultimately, Tyler Matrix is a brand. That is a brand you're trying to promote, and your name is your business. How do you successfully promote your business? Is it through social media? Is it through merchandise? What do you do?
Both. Here in 2017, if you do not have good social media, then you're probably not doing too well in wrestling. It plays such a big role. I mean, well, heck, it plays such a big role in politics, as we can all see too. So
right.
In professional wrestling, it's more the same. Social media, and then also merchandise too, because merchandise is also another way to help pay your bills. Your T-shirts, your bracelets, your action figures, all those kind of things.
Now, are you just promoting your merchandise at the tables, pre-show or post-show, or are you going out there, you have a website, people can go look at your merchandise and they can buy it online?
I'm working on the website right now, but currently, at the show, during the show, post-show, or you can even hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and do things through PayPal and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm definitely looking to get a website set up, make things a lot more easier as far as merchandise and everything.
Guys, you can follow Tyler Matrix on Twitter at Tyler_Matrix and also on Instagram at Tyler Matrix. And one of the interesting things that I've learned throughout my time watching and being involved in professional wrestling is tradition. A lot of the old school wrestlers, they believe highly in tradition, which rightly so, right? That kind of paved the way to where you are right now. And there's some haters out there that might not see the high-flying athleticism that certain individuals possess. They're not really 100% sold on that. How do you blend the traditional aspect of the basic maneuvers of professional wrestling with your high-flying display inside the squared circle?
Man, that's a great question. To be honest, a lot of guys, I would say modern day, it's a mixture because wrestling is always evolving. The things that the crowds want to see nowadays are almost night and day to what would get them out of their seats back in 1970 or so.
Right.
So it's more so the wrestling formulas are still the same, but you still got to tweak it and make it entertaining because you don't want to see the same old stuff every time.
Tyler, I think the younger generation, everything is so fast-paced. Everything is in your face right away. I think the high-flying aspect has a lot to provide the fans of today. Yeah, you might get a fan like me that grew up in the 80s and watched the Hulk Hogan's, the Andre the Giants, the Macho Man Randy Savages, Tito Santana's. Those guys had very psychological matches. I remember reffing a match, and I think there was like 10 high spots in the match, and I'm like, when the hell do I count to 3? And maybe I was a bad ref, who knows? But Tyler, that's the way people want it these days. And that's why I asked you this question about balance, because you want to pay respect to where, wrestling was, but you also want to evolve it to that next generation. How do you feel you're providing that service to the fans and to maybe up-and-coming wrestlers that are trying to get involved like yourself?
Well, to build on that, and then also on Wrestling Evolving, at the end of the day, wrestling is an art form.
Right.
Wrestling is essentially what you make it. You're the artist, and the ring is essentially the canvas. So it's whatever you want to make it, and I believe that fans of your work is essentially just fans of your art. So you can go out there and you can do 20 dives, or you can go out there and do headlocks and arm ringers and all that stuff for 20 minutes and do a time limit draw. It doesn't matter. As long as you're getting the fans invested and involved, and as long as people leave happy and feel like they got their money's worth, then you did your job right. So art is very subjective. Like you've got, for example, places like a Pro Wrestling Gorilla, which is a company based out of California. Those are the most insane athletes. If you're on that card, then you are, in my opinion, one of the top wrestlers in the world. But vice versa, here at Ohio Valley Wrestling, you're still going to see some of that, but you're not going to see all of it. But it's also because we don't need it. Like our fans react to our style form of wrestling, and it's more of like sprinkling those high spots, like you said, into matches instead of it being, right from the get-go. It's like a sprint.
Right. And there's a case where people can blow up real quickly when they're moving at 100 miles an hour in the ring. I think of professional wrestling, too, as somewhat related to being a comedian. Not that it's funny. Don't take this the wrong way. When you go out there and if you're a heel, if you don't get any boos, that's like nobody laughing at your jokes. If you go out there as a babyface and nobody's cheering for you, that's like, you bombed on stage. Have you ever had any of those moments where you came out and you're like, man, this is not the reaction I was looking for, and had to change your ways or do something different to get the crowd motivated?
Yeah. It's kind of like calling an audible on the football field on the fly.
Yeah.
When you first break through that curtain and you're expecting something way different than you receive, and I'm not ashamed to say it, there have been times I've come out the curtain and there's no reaction.
Right.
Because as you're still trying to build your brand and build your stuff up, there's plenty of places you're going to wrestle for the first time at a place every time. So if you go to Indiana, like me going to Indiana or Ohio and wrestling at a promotion for the first time, and they don't know who I am, I wouldn't expect them to react. So then it's then my job to go out there and have a match that has them reacting by the end of it. So by the end of the match, they know exactly who I am.
It's got to be a good feeling, too. Like, at the end of the day, you're like, hey, I did something right today. So I can take that with me and move on. Talking about moving on, I heard you got some, real good news in the turnpike, so to speak. But first things first, you're facing off against Trevor Lee. Why don't you talk to the listeners about that?
Oh, man. It's a huge, huge dream match for me, actually. But I got to give all the thanks to Michael Elgin. I'll actually... A little bit of news here. I'll be moving to St. Louis at the beginning of next January to resume training and actually be training with Michael Elgin's school there and his promotion out there in Glory Pro. And Glory Pro is where I'm getting the opportunity to face Trevor Lee.
I saw it on your Facebook page, the marquee, so to speak. But, yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, no, I believe it was a year ago, this past October, someone had turned me on to Elgin was running a camp of sorts for professional wrestlers, and it was a group of 10 or 12 guys that ended up showing up, and it just completely changed my outlook on how I believe wrestling should be portrayed and how matches should go, and it immediately reflected the week after I did the camp, my matches, and the reaction from the crowd, everything had increased tenfold. So I cannot vouch for my trainer, Michael Elgin, all this teaching more. And through that, he's seen me improve, and that's why I'm getting these opportunities. And that's how I got the opportunity to face Trevor Lee. And I am stepping up in training now, and that has been my focus ever since it was announced, February 18th. February 18th, 2018, Glory Pro. I cannot wait for that match.
And you talk about certain things that you learned with this transition. And, I've interviewed a lot of MMA fighters here in the past, and they go to different camps. And I guess this is kind of professional wrestling's way of you going to different camps and learning different things. It makes sense.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't, in professional wrestling, depending on what your goals are, you can't stay in one place.
No.
I've been here in Louisville for about more than 2 years now, and it was getting to be time for a change anyways, because if you stick to one method of training and then you get out there and your wrestling guys trained a different way, things might not turn out the best.
Right.
You've got to learn the American style of wrestling. You've got WWE even has its own style of wrestling. And then you've got the independent circuit, Japanese style, lucha from Mexico and everything. Even over in the UK, they have their own style of wrestling. So the more styles you learn, the better professional wrestler you're going to become. And that was one of the main key points Elgin pointed out to us as students. And that's the whole reason behind I'm moving, is to get better and better myself as a professional wrestler.
Endurance, energy, strength, and focus are the 4 pillars of any great pre-workout supplement, and the team at Flex Zone is delivering them to you in their all-new pre-workout powerhouse Pre-Flex. Flex Zone Pre-Flex comes in 3 delicious flavors: Blue Raz, Green Apple, and Fruit Punch. This product is clinically tested with no proprietary blends and no artificial dyes or colors. And best of all, it's made right here in the US of A. It's time to get your pump on with Flex Zone Pre-Flex Workout Powder. And don't forget to use code STORM15 to get your 15% discount on your purchase. Flex Zone Pre-Flex and Flex Zone supplements are where it's at.
My name is Will Zazarowski, and I've entered the Flex Zone, baby.
Now, how tough was it for you to pack up your bags and move? I mean, financially, it's got to be a strain. Did you have things lined up as far as a job when you moved?
When I moved from Alabama, I believe it was August of 2015, I had some money saved up. I was ready to go, but one of the things was I actually didn't have any credit at the time. So I'm searching for like a roommate or something. For the first week I actually lived in Louisville, I was actually sleeping on another girl that was wrestling at Ohio Valley Wrestling at the time. I was sleeping on her couch. I had actually met her. Ohio Valley Wrestling they have 2 different courses. And I had just finished up the first course, which was the Matt Capitelli beginner's training class, which Matt Capitelli is one of my trainers as well. And he's one of the greatest human beings on planet Earth. So I did Matt's 10-week course, and through there I met some of the people that were on the weekly television show. She was one of them. But really, it just speaks to what a brotherhood that professional wrestling is, because these people really don't know me. They've only known me for a minute, but they trust me enough to let me, as a complete stranger almost, sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool, because you've got people that looking out for you that you don't even know are looking out for you. But yeah, I don't even think my mom knows that I was sleeping on another girl's couch at the time, because I was still living at home with them in Alabama. And I was like, yeah, I've got a place lined up. I'm all good, Mom. Don't worry about me. You know, I can handle me. Little does she know, I'm driving up. I was actually driving to Louisville, Kentucky, in what seemed like the second coming of the flood from the Bible at the time.
Oh, no!
Because it was pouring down rain, and I've got my old beat-up car at the time without working windshield wipers.
Oh, no!
Going through this monsoon. And, you know, you start to get those little things of doubt, like, you know, is this God telling me, hey, man, this is the wrong move? You know, turn back now. But I'm a firm believer that it definitely was the right move.
The older generation of professional wrestlers really put the point that you need to keep your mouth shut and your ears open. Now, when you went when you traveled, going to a new facility and everything, how important is it for you and to tell the listeners out there, or maybe an upcoming aspiring professional wrestler, to keep their mouth shut and their ears open? How important is it?
Crucial. Absolutely crucial. If you're making a first impression on someone and all you want to do is talk their ear off, it's great to have ideas in professional wrestling, but if all you want to do is talk about your ideas to someone who is maybe your veteran of 10 years,
right,
you're probably not going to go far. You definitely, it's like the entry level at a job. Mouth shut, ears open, just listen, do as I say, and you're going to be okay, kid. That's about all it is.
Now, if I'm a new fan of Tyler Matrix, right, which match should I look up first when searching your name?
If you're searching Tyler Matrix on YouTube, the number one match that I could vouch for is probably one of my best ones that's also free would be Tyler Matrix versus Chris Silvio at PWF. We had a match in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and it was actually the first time that we had ever met. Chris was one of my mentors back in OVW when I first started. He was the OVW heavyweight champion as I first started training. So he was kind of like one of those guys I wanted to watch and emulate, and Chris ended up moving to Florida, and he's done stuff with I think they're Impact Wrestling again, and then also with NXT. And Chris was kind of like one of my role models when I first started out. So that was the first time ever matchup that we got to have, and it was easily one of my top favorite ones.
Have you been taking Flex Zone Preflex?
I absolutely have, and let me tell you, and this isn't me just putting them over as an ambassador, but the Preflex is one of the best pre-workouts I've actually ever had. For a little bit there, I was a little burned out on pre-workouts. You've got like your standard ones that everyone uses. And a buddy of mine, we had actually started buying the ingredients ourselves and kind of made like our own little homebrew. And that was working for a little bit, but we weren't getting too crazy, not thousands and thousands of milligrams of caffeine or nothing, but just only a couple thousand.
Enough to get the heart going 100 miles an hour, huh?
Right, above what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But, that's another story for another time. But no, most of the same ingredients that we were using is in the Preflex, and I'm 100% behind it because I believe it is one of the best pre-workouts out there today.
Now, you say it's one of the best, right? And I just want to ask, in your own opinion, how is it the best? Does it do anything different? How does this one benefit as opposed to the rest of the ones that are on the market today?
To me, I think pre-workout, it's different for everybody. But as far as me, when I get in the gym, I like to hop on the bike for a little bit and warm up and sip on my pre-workout and kind of warm my body up and get everything going. And normally by the time I'm kind of finished with my beginning bit on the bike and I finished up my pre-workout, I've just got that right amount of tingle in my skin.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling, energized and ready to go, as opposed to some of those things that hit you like a door.
Right.
And next thing you know, you're ready to go, but 15 minutes later, you're crashing. There's a lot of stamina and longevity in this pre-workout, and that's another thing, too, is I'll go in there. My workout, 9 times out of 10, is going to be a 2-hour workout, and it gets me through every minute of it.
And that's fantastic, by the way, because, those 2-hour workouts are real grueling. But, we talk about professional wrestling. I mean, you're a wrestler that, relies on his physique and his athleticism. Is there any kind of focused workouts that you need to do as a professional wrestler? Is there somebody that, maybe paved the way before that gave you a kind of a workout plan or some guide to get you in the best shape you can for being in the squared circle?
Yeah, I've had a couple of guys help me out with that. My own personal goals is, you talked about blowing up earlier, and that's the number one thing you don't want to do out there in the ring is get gassed and be able to do anything out there.
Right.
So cardio is a really high thing up on my goal platform every day, is to stay in the best cardiovascular shape. But at the same time, I'm definitely not trying to be out here looking like a featherweight or a cruiserweight. So a lot of it goes into building muscle, more bodybuilding workouts, almost like a blend of that.
So is it heavyweight, short reps?
Yeah, low reps. I'm trying to get stronger and then also kind of build some muscle. But yeah, still splitting it up by body part. Or I'm also doing push-pull days and then leg days. But leg day is probably by far it's the worst for everybody, I feel like. But when you're trying to keep up that lucha high-flying style, but you hit legs the day before, you're not jumping real high, are you?
No, and the thing is, too, Tyler, that we all need balance. I see a lot of people, when I was working out every day, they'd have these real skinny legs, and they'd be, like, jacked up top. I'm like, how the hell do they hold their body up? And, yeah, you don't want to be disproportioned, especially if you're going to be on television.
Right, because then you are known as the guy with the standing over there on 2 toothpicks for legs.
Leg day sucks, but there's going to be some days when you're trying to achieve those goals of being the best professional wrestler, but you just got to keep on going. That's part of the gig. That's part of the job. Mm-hmm. You got to have your in-ring knowledge. You got to know your history. You got to work out. Kind of cheesy, but kind of like Hulk Hogan said a long time ago. But, people are taking better supplements and vitamins these days.
Got to eat your vitamins, brother.
Outside of the Trevor Lee match that's coming up here in 2018, what do you see for yourself as far as 2018 goes?
Definitely more branching out. I think first starting out, you have an idea of what branching out is, but it's really hit home with me as I've watched, the success of some of my peers and even some of my own success, how important it is to reach out to other promotions and let them know that your services are available and that you would love the opportunity to be a part of their show. So 2018, I see myself wrestling in a lot of different places I've never been before. Working on that passport right now also, getting into Japan and Mexico, definitely. If anything, by the end of the year at the latest of 2018.
Well, Tyler, been great having you on Enter the Flex Zone. Any shout-outs you want to make to any individuals out there that have helped you grow as a professional wrestler?
I definitely want to give a shout-out to the guys that, again, have helped me get to where I am today. Michael Elgin, Matt Capitelli. Definitely want to give a big shout-out to my hoops. We've got my man Logan James, Kevin Giza, Lucas Gibson, Adam Slade. Those are my guys that are in the car every weekend. Any opportunity we can get to go somewhere. So definitely, if you're also a wrestling promoter, those are the guys I vouch for. Hands down, some of the best guys coming up right now. Definitely want to shout out Kurt, giving me the opportunity to be on the Enter the Flex Zone podcast. And super happy to be a part of the Flex team.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another exciting episode of Enter the Flex Zone. If you want to follow Tyler Matrix on Twitter, you can do so at Tyler_Matrix. Also on Instagram at Tyler Matrix. To pretty much wrap things up here, if you want to be a professional wrestler, you got to put in the time. If you do not put in the time, you're not going to be anybody. You want to be a local hero, you want to wrestle in front of your friends or your family, then so be it. If that's what you want to do, then that's great. But if you want to take it to the next level, you need to hit the pavement running. You have to go get in your car, pile in a bunch of guys or girls, and get on the road. If that means traveling overseas, if that means venturing off to different camps, then so be it. You gotta pay your dues in professional wrestling. Nothing is gonna be handed to you on a silver platter. So, travel the roads. You wanna listen, but you don't really wanna speak. You wanna absorb as much knowledge as you can. Save up that money and go overseas. Go to Mexico. Go to Japan. Go to places you haven't been and try to get the word out about who you are as a professional wrestler. Because maybe one day, you never know, the WWE might be knocking on your door after you've worked extremely hard to get where you want to go. This is Brad Storm, thanking all of you for entering the Flex Zone.